The whispers started the moment Marcus walked into the church alone. He adjusted his second-hand suit, the one he'd bought 3 years ago for job interviews, and tried to ignore the stares. This wasn't how he'd imagined attending his cousin Eliza's wedding, but when the babysitter cancelled last minute, he had no choice but to leave 8-year-old Lily with his elderly neighbor. As he slipped into a back pew, Marcus never imagined that by the reception's end, his life would be completely transformed by the words of a man he'd never met. If you're moved by stories of unexpected kindness and second chances, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming true stories that restore faith in humanity. Marcus Jenkins hadn't planned on being a single father at 32. But life rarely follows our carefully laid plans. 4 years ago, his wife Sarah had complained of headaches. 3 months later, she was gone, an aggressive brain tumor taking her far too soon and leaving Marcus to raise their daughter alone. He worked as a mechanic at Hartwell Auto, putting in long hours to make ends meet. His boss, Frank, was understanding about his situation, but there were only so many accommodations a small business could make. Marcus had missed promotions, turned down better-paying positions at shops across town, all because they couldn't offer the flexibility he needed for Lily. "You clean up nice," his cousin Eliza had told him when she'd called last week. "I haven't seen you in a suit since Sarah's funeral." The comment had stung, but he knew she hadn't meant anything by it. Eliza had been there for him after Sarah died, bringing meals, helping with Lily when she could. Her wedding to James Thornton was the social event of the season in their small town of Millfield. James came from money, old money, and their wedding guest list included business executives, local politicians, and even a minor celebrity or two. Marcus felt out of place the moment he arrived at the ornate church. The ceremony was beautiful, if a bit extravagant for his taste. He watched Eliza, radiant in her designer gown, exchange vows with James, handsome in his tailored tuxedo. Marcus was happy for them, truly, but he couldn't help feeling the acute absence of Sarah beside him, and Lily's small hand in his. At the reception, held at the prestigious Millfield Country Club, Marcus found himself seated at a table far from the wedding party, with distant relatives and acquaintances who clearly wondered why he was there alone. "Your daughter couldn't make it?" asked an older woman Marcus vaguely recognized as James's aunt. "Babysitter cancelled," Marcus explained, taking a sip of water. "My neighbor was kind enough to step in." "Oh, that's too bad," the woman said, though her tone suggested she thought it might be for the best. "Children can be so disruptive at these events." Marcus nodded politely, though inside he was seething. Lily was the most well-behaved child he knew. She'd grown up too fast after losing her mother, becoming serious and responsible beyond her years. Sometimes he worried she wasn't getting enough of a childhood. The evening dragged on. Marcus checked his phone repeatedly, texting his neighbor for updates on Lily. He was considering making an early exit when the microphone squealed for attention. The best man had finished his speech, and now James's father, Robert Thornton, CEO of Thornton Industries, was taking the floor. Robert was an imposing figure, tall, distinguished, with silver hair and the confident bearing of a man accustomed to power. His company employed half the town, manufacturing precision parts for the aerospace industry. Marcus had applied there once, years ago, but never heard back. "I want to thank everyone for coming to celebrate James and Eliza's special day," Robert began, his deep voice commanding attention. "As a father, there is no greater joy than seeing your child find happiness with someone they love." Marcus felt a pang in his chest, thinking of Lily's future. Would he one day give a speech at her wedding? Would she find someone who treasured her as she deserved? "Family is everything," Robert continued. "And today, our family grows. Eliza, we welcome you with open arms." The crowd applauded, and Marcus joined in, though his mind was still half on Lily at home. "But before I conclude," Robert said, his tone shifting slightly, "I'd like to address something else." He paused, scanning the room. "I understand there's a single father here tonight who came alone because his babysitter cancelled at the last minute." Marcus froze, his heart suddenly pounding. How did Robert know this? Had Eliza mentioned it? I don't know this gentleman personally, Robert continued, but I've been told about his situation. And I want everyone here to look at me. The room fell silent, all eyes on Robert Thornton. Look at me, he repeated, his voice growing more passionate. I stand before you as the CEO of a successful company, as the father of the groom, as someone society might call accomplished. But I want to tell you about true accomplishment. He set down his champagne glass. 28 years ago, I was that single father. My wife, James's mother, died when he was just 5 years old. Cancer. His voice caught slightly. For years, I struggled to balance work and raising a son alone. I missed school plays because of meetings. I took conference calls from hospital waiting rooms when James had the flu. I wore the same suit to every function because I couldn't justify spending money on myself when my son needed new shoes. Marcus sat up straighter, hardly believing what he was hearing. So when I hear about a father who puts his child first, who works hard every day to give them the best life possible, who shows up even when it's difficult, that's someone who deserves our respect. That's someone I want to acknowledge. Robert's eyes seemed to find Marcus in the crowd. I don't know your name, sir, but I see you. And I want everyone here to see you too. Because what you're doing, raising a child on your own, it's the hardest job in the world. And the most important. Marcus felt tears pricking at his eyes. For years, he'd felt invisible, just another struggling parent trying to keep his head above water. To be seen, to be acknowledged like this, by someone like Robert Thornton, it was overwhelming. So please, Robert said, would the single father who came alone tonight please stand up? I'd like to honor you. For a moment, Marcus couldn't move. Then, slowly, he rose to his feet, his face burning with embarrassment yet somehow proud. What's your name, sir? Robert asked. Marcus Jenkins, he managed to say, his voice carrying across the suddenly quiet room. Marcus Jenkins, Robert repeated. Everyone, please join me in applauding this man's dedication to his child. The room erupted in applause. Marcus stood awkwardly, unsure what to do with his hands, with the attention. Eliza was beaming at him from the head table, and even James was nodding appreciatively. Marcus, I'd like to speak with you after the festivities, Robert added. If you wouldn't mind staying a bit longer. Marcus nodded, still stunned, and sank back into his chair as the applause continued. The rest of the reception passed in a blur. People who had ignored him all evening suddenly wanted to chat, to hear about Lily, to offer playdates with their own children. It was surreal. As the evening wound down, Marcus found himself approached by Robert Thornton himself. Mr. Jenkins, Robert said, extending his hand. Thank you for staying. Of course, sir, Marcus replied, shaking the offered hand. And thank you for what you said. It meant a lot. I meant every word, Robert said. Walk with me. They stepped out onto the country club's terrace, the summer night warm and fragrant with flowers. In the distance, the lights of Millfield twinkled. Eliza tells me you're a mechanic, Robert said. Yes, sir. At Hartwell Auto, going on 10 years now. Good with your hands, then. Problem solver. Marcus nodded, unsure where this was going. Our maintenance department at Thornton Industries has an opening, Robert said casually. Senior position. Better pay than you're making now, I'd wager. And, he turned to look directly at Marcus, flexible hours. On-site daycare for employees. Comprehensive health benefits. Marcus stared at him, speechless. I'm not offering charity, Robert clarified. I need skilled people who understand responsibility. People who show up even when it's hard. From what Eliza tells me, that's you. I don't know what to say, Marcus stammered. Say you'll come in for an interview on Monday, Robert replied with a small smile. The job's not guaranteed, you'll need to prove your qualifications. But I have a good feeling about you, Marcus Jenkins. Monday, Marcus repeated, still dazed. Yes, I can do that. Good. Robert handed him a business card. 9 a.m. Ask for me directly. As Robert turned to go, Marcus found his voice again. Mr. Thornton? May I ask, why? Why me? Robert paused, looking back over his shoulder. Because 28 years ago, someone did the same for me. And it changed everything. He smiled. Bring a picture of your daughter. I'd like to see who I'm helping you build a future for. With that, he walked away, leaving Marcus standing alone on the terrace, the business card clutched in his hand like a lifeline. That night, after relieving his neighbor and tucking Lily into bed, Marcus sat on the edge of his own bed, turning Robert's card over and over in his fingers. For the first time in years, he felt something he'd almost forgotten: hope. Monday morning arrived with a mixture of anticipation and terror. Marcus had spent the weekend preparing, researching Thornton Industries, updating his resume, practicing interview questions with Lily playing the role of stern employer, complete with a tie she'd clipped to her t-shirt. Remember, Daddy, she'd said seriously, tell them about how you fixed Mrs. Peterson's car when nobody else could figure out what was wrong. He'd kissed the top of her head. That's good advice, Lil. Now, dressed in his interview suit, freshly pressed, he stood outside the imposing glass headquarters of Thornton Industries. The building gleamed in the morning sunlight, 12 stories of success and opportunity that had always seemed out of reach. For Lily, he whispered to himself, and pushed through the revolving door. The lobby was sleek and modern, with a security desk and a large company logo mounted on the wall behind it. Marcus approached, suddenly conscious of his worn shoes and the small nick he'd discovered on his tie that morning. I have an appointment with Robert Thornton, he told the security guard, trying to project confidence he didn't feel. Marcus Jenkins. The guard checked his computer, then looked up with surprise. Yes, Mr. Jenkins. Mr. Thornton is expecting you. 18th floor. He handed Marcus a visitor badge. The elevator will take you directly to his office. 18th floor. Marcus thought as he stepped into the elevator. The building only had 12 stories from the outside. It wasn't until the doors opened that he realized the top floors were set back from the edge of the building, creating a series of executive terraces invisible from street level. Robert's assistant, a professional-looking woman in her 50s, greeted him warmly. Mr. Jenkins, welcome. Mr. Thornton will be with you shortly. May I get you coffee? Before Marcus could answer, a door opened and Robert Thornton emerged, dressed more casually than at the wedding in slacks and a button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up. Marcus, right on time, he said, extending his hand. Come in, please. Robert's office was spacious but not ostentatious. One wall was entirely glass, offering a panoramic view of Millfield. Family photos lined another wall, many of James at various ages, but also what appeared to be Robert's parents, and an elegant woman Marcus assumed was James's late mother. Please, sit, Robert gestured to a comfortable chair across from his desk. Did you bring a photo? Marcus reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet, extracting a slightly worn school photo of Lily from last year. Her dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail, her smile revealing a missing front tooth. Robert took it carefully, studying it with genuine interest. She has your eyes, he observed. What's her name? Lily. She's 8. A beautiful name for a beautiful girl, Robert said, handing the photo back. You must be very proud. Every day, Marcus replied honestly. Robert nodded, then leaned back in his chair. So, Marcus. Tell me about yourself. Not the resume version, I've already seen that. Tell me who you are. For the next hour, they talked. Not the standard interview questions Marcus had prepared for, but a real conversation. About growing up in Millfield. About meeting Sarah in high school. About the devastating months of her illness and the challenging years that followed. About Lily's love of science and her dream of becoming an astronaut. In turn, Robert shared his own story, the early days after his wife's death, the mistakes he'd made trying to be both mother and father to James, the mentor who had given him his first real opportunity. His name was William Carter, Robert explained. He owned the company that eventually became Thornton Industries. He saw me struggling, offered me a job with the flexibility I needed, took a chance on me when no one else would. When he retired, he sold me the company for a fraction of its worth. Said he was investing in the future. Robert smiled at the memory. I've tried to honor that investment ever since. Finally, Robert straightened in his chair. Well, I think I've taken enough of your time with reminiscing. Let's talk about the position. The job, as Robert described it, was perfect. Senior maintenance supervisor, overseeing a team of technicians responsible for keeping the factory equipment running smoothly. The salary was nearly double what Marcus currently made. The hours were flexible, with the option to work 4 10-hour days instead of 5 8-hour days. And the benefits, health insurance, retirement plan, tuition assistance program, and the on-site daycare, were beyond anything Marcus had dared hope for. Of course, Robert added, you'll need to meet with our HR director and the current maintenance manager. There's a technical assessment as well. But those are formalities, in my opinion. I appreciate the opportunity, Marcus said sincerely. But I want to earn this position. I don't want special treatment. Robert smiled. I wouldn't offer it if I didn't think you were qualified. But I respect your integrity. The interviews and assessment will be fair, you have my word. As Marcus stood to leave, Robert walked him to the door. One more thing, he said. We have a company picnic this Saturday. Family event. Why don't you bring Lily? Let her see where her dad might be working. Meet some of the other children. She'd like that, Marcus agreed. Good. And Marcus? Robert's expression grew serious. What I said at the wedding wasn't just words. What you're doing, raising your daughter alone, it's heroic. Don't ever forget that. Marcus left Thornton Industries that day with something he hadn't felt in years, a sense that the future might hold more than just survival. That he and Lily might actually thrive. The technical assessment later that week was challenging but fair, testing Marcus's knowledge of hydraulic systems, electrical troubleshooting, and preventive maintenance protocols. He left feeling confident. This was the work he'd been doing for years, just on a larger scale. Saturday arrived sunny and warm. The company picnic was held at a local park, with bounce houses for the children, catered food, and games organized by a professional event company. Marcus felt a momentary pang of inadequacy as he parked his 15-year-old sedan among the newer vehicles, but Lily's excitement was contagious. Do you think they'll have hot dogs? She asked, practically bouncing in her seat. And can I go in the bounce house even though I'm 8? Some of them say they're for little kids. I'm sure they'll have hot dogs, Marcus assured her. And we'll check about the bounce house when we get there. They were barely out of the car when Robert spotted them, waving them over to where he stood with a group that included James and Eliza. Marcus. And this must be Lily, Robert said warmly. I'm very pleased to meet you, young lady. Lily, suddenly shy, half hid behind Marcus's leg. It's okay, Lil, he encouraged. This is Mr. Thornton. He's the one who invited us today. Hello, she said quietly, extending her small hand as Marcus had taught her. Robert shook it solemnly. I understand you want to be an astronaut, he said. Lily's eyes widened. How did you know that? Your dad told me. Did you know that Thornton Industries makes parts for spacecraft? Not the big rockets, but some of the equipment inside them. Really? Lily emerged fully from behind Marcus, her shyness forgotten. Really? In fact, after lunch, I could show you some pictures of the components we've made that are currently orbiting Earth. Really? In fact, after lunch, I could show you some pictures of the components we've made that are currently orbiting Earth on the International Space Station. Lily's eyes grew wide. Yes, please. Robert laughed. It's settled then. But first, I believe there are hot dogs calling your name, and some other children you might want to meet. He introduced them to several families, including his maintenance manager, Dave Harmon, whose daughter Emma was just a year older than Lily. The girls hit it off immediately, running off to the bounce house after extracting promises from their fathers that they could go see the space pictures together later. She's a great kid, Dave said, watching the girls. Smart too, from what I can tell. She gets that from her mother, Marcus replied with a sad smile. Dave nodded understandingly. Robert told me about your situation. For what it's worth, I think you'd be a great fit for our team. Anyone who can keep it together as a single parent has the kind of problem-solving skills and dedication we need. The rest of the picnic passed in a blur of introductions, conversations, and watching Lily blossom among the other children. By the time Robert gathered Lily and Emma for the promised tour of space component photos in his office, which he'd brought specially for the occasion, Marcus felt like he'd known these people for years rather than days. Your daughter is remarkable, Robert told Marcus as they watched the girls excitedly point at the high-resolution images. She asked more insightful questions about our gyroscopic stabilizers than some of our junior engineers. She's always been curious, Marcus said proudly. Gets that from her mother too. And from you, Robert corrected. Don't sell yourself short, Marcus. Children learn by example. Her confidence, her kindness, those come from watching you navigate life with integrity. On Monday morning, Marcus received the official job offer from Thornton Industries. The salary was even higher than initially discussed, with a signing bonus that would allow him to finally replace his aging car. He accepted immediately. His first day was scheduled for 2 weeks later, giving him time to give notice at Hartwell Auto and prepare Lily for the changes ahead. Frank was disappointed to lose him but understood completely. You'd be a fool to turn this down, his old boss said gruffly. Just don't forget us little guys when you're running that place. The transition wasn't without challenges. The work at Thornton was more complex than at the auto shop, with sophisticated machinery and stricter protocols. There were office politics to navigate and new relationships to build. But for the first time in years, Marcus felt like he was moving forward rather than just treading water. The on-site daycare proved to be a game-changer. During summer break, Lily spent her days there, making friends and participating in educational activities. Occasionally, she'd have lunch with Marcus in the company cafeteria, proudly introducing him to her new friends as my dad who fixes the machines that make spaceship parts. 3 months into his new position, Marcus was called to Robert's office. How are you settling in? Robert asked after they'd exchanged pleasantries. Very well, sir. Dave's been an excellent mentor, and the team has been welcoming. Good to hear. And Lily? Is she adjusting to the new arrangements? Marcus smiled. She loves it. The daycare director says she's organizing the other kids into space missions during free play time. Robert chuckled. Future leadership material. He leaned forward, his expression growing more serious. The reason I called you here, Marcus, is that Dave has decided to retire at the end of the year. Earlier than expected, his wife's health isn't good, and they want to travel while they still can. I'm sorry to hear that, Marcus said sincerely. He'd grown fond of Dave over the past months. Yes, well, these things happen. Which brings me to my question, how would you feel about being groomed to take his position? Marcus stared at him, stunned. Sir, I've only been here 3 months. And in that time, you've implemented 2 efficiency protocols that have reduced our maintenance downtime by 15%. You've earned the respect of your team and shown exceptional problem-solving skills. Robert smiled. Dave recommended you himself. I don't know what to say. Say you'll consider it. The promotion would come with additional responsibilities, of course, but also a significant salary increase and more direct input into company operations. What about the flexible schedule? Lily would remain the priority, Robert assured him. We'd work around your needs, just as we do now. That's non-negotiable. That evening, as Marcus tucked Lily into bed, he found himself studying her face, Sarah's nose, his eyes, her own unique spirit shining through. "Daddy?" she asked sleepily. "Are you okay? You're looking at me funny." "I'm more than okay, Lil," he said softly. "I was just thinking about how lucky I am to be your dad." She smiled, already half asleep. "I'm lucky too." 6 months later, Marcus officially stepped into the role of maintenance director at Thornton Industries. The ceremony was small, just the maintenance team and a few executives, including Robert. Lily was there too, wearing her first ever dress that wasn't for school, beaming with pride as Robert presented Marcus with his new company ID and office keys. "I knew from the moment I saw you at that wedding," Robert said during his brief speech, "that you were someone special. Not because of your skills or your resume, but because of your heart. Your dedication to your daughter showed me everything I needed to know about your character." Later, at the small reception that followed, Robert pulled Marcus aside. "I have something for you," he said, handing him a small, wrapped package. "A tradition I started years ago." Inside was a silver frame containing the photo of Lily that Marcus had shown Robert during their first meeting. Engraved on the bottom of the frame were the words, "Remember why you work." "I keep a similar one on my desk," Robert explained. "James at age 5. It reminds me that success isn't measured in dollars or titles, but in the legacy we create through our children." Marcus swallowed hard against the lump in his throat. "Thank you. For everything." "No," Robert said firmly. "Thank you. For reminding an old man why he built this company in the first place." 2 years to the day after that fateful wedding, Marcus stood in his backyard, watching Lily and her friends, including Emma Harmon, running through the sprinkler on a hot summer afternoon. His new house wasn't extravagant, but it was in a good neighborhood with excellent schools, and it had a yard where Lily could play. His phone buzzed with a text from Robert, "Don't forget dinner tonight. James and Eliza have news to share." Marcus smiled. The Thorntons had become like family to him and Lily. Robert was the closest thing to a grandfather Lily had ever known, and she adored him. As he watched his daughter laugh and play, Marcus thought about how much had changed since that night he'd walked into the wedding alone, feeling out of place and invisible. Now he had a career, not just a job. Financial security. A home. A future. All because someone had taken the time to see him, really see him, and recognize the value in what he was doing as a father. Later that evening, as James and Eliza announced they were expecting their first child, Marcus caught Robert's eye across the table. The older man raised his glass slightly in a private toast, and Marcus returned the gesture, a world of understanding passing between them. Some might call what happened luck or coincidence. Marcus knew better. It was recognition of the quiet heroism of parenthood, especially single parenthood, and the profound impact that can come from simply acknowledging someone's struggles and worth. As the celebration continued around him, Marcus made a silent promise to himself: someday, when the opportunity arose, he would stand up for someone else the way Robert had stood up for him. He would see the invisible, acknowledge the overlooked, and perhaps change another life with the simple, powerful words. "Look at me. I see you. And what you're doing matters." If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Every day, there are unsung heroes among us, single parents, caregivers, those who struggle silently while putting others first. Sometimes, all it takes is one person to see their worth and change everything. Share this video to remind someone special that they are seen, and their efforts matter more than they know.